Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are going to be starting to prime the bay. Has been a lot of work to be able to get to this point, but we are finally there, at least to the beginning of it. Starting out, plan on painting pretty much everything from the the strut towers forward and the frame rails along the sides. After I get those painted, I've got to still make these patch panels that are going to shave this part of the bay, but I want to make sure that I get some paint laid down since there is some exposed metal over here. I don't want any of this stuff to rust underneath here, trap any water, and start to be an issue for me in the future. So I'm just gonna paint all that and then put those patch panels in and seam seal that all together there. I also, as I mentioned in my last video, found a small little bit of rust back here. I did fix it. I've got some body filler on it, but I'm not going to be doing the front of this yet. I've got a little bit more body work that I need to do on that, and then I want to be able to clean everything a little bit deeper back here, but I don't want to hit this with too much cleaner and stuff until this is fully cured, and I know that it's not going to be breaking down if I spray it with some degreaser and brake clean and stuff. So that behind the strut towers and up along the firewall will be just a little bit later. But today, you guys are going to be able to see that I get both of the sides of the bay primed from the strut towers forward. All right, you guys, I got the first coat down. It's been about 5 minutes or so I'm just about to lay this second coat down on it. This primer that I'm using is a high fill primer that I do plan on going back over and sanding over the top of everything once it's dry. So right now I'm just trying to get all the coats on so I can do the rest of the patch panels and then be able to smooth everything out before it gets the color. You guys will find out here soon what color I'm doing the bay, but for now I'll get this set up and get the second coat laid down. We just got this third coat of primer laid down, and guys, this looks so much better. Even just with the primer in the bay, it just smoothed everything out, cleaned all of it up so much. There's a little tiny bit of show through the paint of a few of these spots that I repaired. You can see just a little bit right there and a little tiny indent there, but overall, after seeing the primer laid down, the body work came out great. I'm happy with it for what my use of the car is going to be, and just seeing all of this primed and one color is really great. I did end up priming the firewall along the back. As you guys can see, I left this little patch out of where I've still got a body work some right there. I'm going to be sanding down through all of this anyway again before I lay the paint down, but I am going to be giving it a couple of days before I do that to make sure it's fully cured. I even came back into the trans tunnel a little bit because I do plan to paint about a foot or so back inside of there to make sure that there's no way that you can see any of the original color inside of the bay. But this is going to be just a couple of days, and the next time I'm up here and start sanding this before I lay down some color, I will bring you guys along. It is another day here in the shop. It has been close to a week at this point, actually, since I've primed the bay, but it is fully done now. So I will show you guys. I actually have gone through, done all of the priming. This little area back here that I needed to body work, I also body worked this section right here. I went ahead, I just primed that today, as well as flipping the entire body harness, fuse box, everything down, and got that back corner painted behind the fuse box so that the entire bay could be done. So all of the primer is taken care of in the car now. What I'm gonna be doing today, showing you guys, is actually seam sealing some of the car that needs some new seam sealer on. And as you guys can see, there's a couple areas, especially down around here, that some of the factory seam sealer is just kind of cracking, starting to get old and worn out. So we have got some brush on seam sealer right here. I've actually never installed any kind of brush on sealer in the past. I've only ever used just out of a tube that just squeezes on. I've used this little bit of seam sealer, but I really wanted to try to keep the OEM brushed on look that BMW uses. So I do plan on going back over all of the seam sealer that's already on the car, put a new coat on it, make everything look really uniform, and hopefully that'll be good. Once we do that, I am going to be making my templates to cut out these patch panels. I didn't want to do that before I primed for the purpose of making sure that this got some paint on it. But now that everything's primed, I'm going to put those patch panels in, and then I will be going back through painting those probably before they go in, actually, just so that both sides can be painted, and then the seam sealer around the edges of that so it looks as factory as possible. And then I'll be revealing to you guys what the color that I decided to do with this bay actually is going to be. So I'll set you guys up, show you guys the process of going through and re-seam sealing the bay.
Figure beats.
Okay, you guys, we have gotten this whole half of the bay taken care of. This side is still completely clear. Like I said, this is my first time doing this, so I wasn't completely sure how it was gonna go. There's a couple spots I wish it would have been a little bit better. In fact, I'll tell you what, sitting here on the video like this, I see that there's a spot right there that definitely didn't even get any. I'm gonna just kind of brush over that, try to leave a little bit of brush strokes. I gotta move kind of quick because this stuff is drying faster than I expected. However, the factory seam sealer that was in this bay was a little bit messy. It wasn't perfectly straight lined. It's just kind of all over the place. You can tell it was production line. People were moving fast. This was not a car that was a show car when it rolled off the line. This was a economy car for the time. It was a sporty one, but this is still the economy version of the car. So I wanted to go back over everything. I tried to make it, you know, sort of OEM-like, that I wasn't trying to make it super clean lines. I wanted to cover all the spots they did. I wanted to get it similar to how they had it on there and try to just leave long, single looking brush strokes when I finished an area. So that's all taken care of. I am pretty happy with it. That's a little bit messy back there, but that gets covered by the hood latch, so I'm not too concerned about that. Went all the way down around here, up inside of the top there, and across the firewall. I'm gonna have to avoid this corner back here because it still needs to dry a little bit longer with the paint. However, I am going to start on this side of the bay, and hopefully it goes well. I'll get back to you guys here shortly. And just like that, I think we are done. I just got this side taken care of. Same pretty much setup as the other side. I just followed along all the seams where seam sealer already was, and I painted over everything where they already had seam sealer, whether it was still in good condition, whether it was old and cracking. I just wanted to make sure that I sealed everything up. And I will say I'm actually pretty happy with it. For being the first time I've used it, for being inside of the bay like this, it was super thick to try to use. So anybody that's trying to use it, just put a lot on the brush and move pretty quick, because it is starting to dry pretty quickly. This is stuff that says it's supposed to be good to paint within about an hour or so. So it shouldn't take too long. However, I am gonna let it completely dry. I don't plan on painting anything until after I get the patch panels in for the shaved bay, these delete plates right here. So that'll be just a little bit. I am going to be putting that actually right after this, so you guys will see that here in just a second. I'm starting to go through that stuff, but for the seam sealer in the bay, we are all taken care of, you guys. It has been another day since I've seen you guys. All of the seam sealer has fully dried. Turned out pretty good. This stuff is really strong, actually. I was a little bit surprised how much it hardened up. It's still soft and flexible a little bit, but it definitely hardened up pretty decent. So today I have actually got the panels to be able to weld into here, and this is going to delete all of these holes that's down underneath here. Rather than trying to individually fill each one, it's really common to just put this entire panel over the top. So that you guys are able to see kind of how I went about it, I took just a piece of cardboard and cut out a template and just real slowly just trimmed it, made it work how I needed it to be able to fit inside of that slot. After I did that, I've got this piece of sheet metal over here that I just traced out this cardboard on, cut just a little bit larger than the drawing that I did, so I kept the marker line, and then I was able to just slowly just trim down and really try to tune in, like fine tune some of the trimming that I needed to be able to make this fit as well as I can. I am going to be painting and seam sealing this. I've actually already painted the underside. I did that so that it's not bare metal that's on the underside of this once it's on the car. And I have sanded down a couple of little spots up along here that I'm going to tack it first and just get it set into place. So I will set this up. I do actually also have the other side ready over here, but it is currently painted or primed in this box so that it is also protected. I'm waiting on that to finish drying before I go ahead and tack it in the car. So I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of sandpaper real quick so that it is ready to be primed once it's in the car. And then I am gonna set up this time lapse and show you guys this thing getting put in place. Just like that, we've got this first side tacked in place. It is just in a couple of spots to try to give it a little bit of rigidity. This thing isn't really going to see any weight. I'm going to seam seal up around the outside of all of this to make sure that it's fully sealed in, looks as OEM as possible. So these couple of real small gaps aren't going to be a huge issue. Anything that's too big of a gap up along the front here, I might try to do a little bit of something to be able to fill that just so it looks a little bit better than that. But one thing to remember with the front of this, you don't see this once the radiator support is back in. The radiator support sits about here and comes straight across, and there's a cover that goes behind the headlight. So anything up along the front here isn't even seen. So rather than trying to fully seal that off and really trap water that's able to get in from underneath the bottom here, I figure a little bit of a gap up around the front of it is not going to be the end of the world. If it ever becomes an issue for me, then I'll rethink how I did it and maybe have to do the process of taking it apart and trying to redo it. But for now, I'm happy with how that's going to look, and I am going to get back to you guys once I have the other side put back in, and the seam sealer will be on, actually, to be able to let that start drying so we can get some primer laid down on this. So I just wrapped up this first coat of primer on the bay after the seam sealer was all on. I did go ahead, before you guys have seen, in case this looks a little bit off, I actually have already wet sanded the primer coat because I did want to get that wet sanded before I put any color down. But the seam sealer I'm not really going to need to sand over because it's already pretty rough looking. I've mostly needed to sand over it because this primer does go on a little bit uneven because it is a high build primer meant to be able to fill a few sanding marks and stuff from the metal below. So I went ahead and wet sanded everything else, but with this first coat of primer on, it is looking pretty good with everything starting to finally come together and match with these delete panels in. I am definitely looking forward to having this stuff done, and this is what it looks like with these patch panels actually in, seam sealed, everything. It did go a little bit rough. I ended up not having the same type of paintbrush that I had the other day. It came out a little bit more rough, but it still looks pretty good now that I've got a coat of paint on it. I will update you guys here in just a minute after I get this final coat on and show you guys what color we're doing. We have finished up all 3 coats of primer on the seam sealer in here, and it is ready to be painted over the color coat. So I figure it is finally time to let you guys know what color we're going with, and I decided to go with a paint matched Audi gloss Nardo gray. It should be a pretty good color in the bay here. I figure that with the car being white but potential color change in the future, I wanted to find something that would look good with the white but would also look good with the couple of color options that I have. So I am going with this. As you guys can see, I've just got a spray paint can of it. I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. One, the biggest reason is this car's not a show car. It's not completely perfect. I guarantee when I'm putting the motor back in, I'm gonna scratch some sort of paint somewhere, and I do not want to go through and make this really nice paint and look really great and I scratch it and then I have to restart with going to get more paint mixed and being able to pull back out the paint gun and do everything, set up another booth. So I'm just going to hit it with the rattle can. It'll be easy to touch it up in the future if I need to. I went ahead also on top of that to try to help protect it. I got this high temp clear coat that is chemical resistant. It's high heat, should be able to help protect it quite a bit. That way if any oil, any brake clean, degrease, or anything gets on it, it should be able to protect the paint that's underneath. But I'm going to go ahead, hit it with this first coat of Nardo gray. I'm going to set this up and give you guys a little time lapse of spraying this first coat down on the bay. Just got this first coat laid down. This Nardo gray is gonna look awesome. So it's real spotty right now. I misted this one on pretty light. The first coat or two I'm gonna do pretty light on it, and then the last coat I'll lay a little bit thicker. That's kind of what's recommended. So got that down. I'll show you guys kind of a little bit of everything up around here. Went down into the trans tunnel just a little bit and got that taken care of. This back corner, same thing as before. I didn't paint everything back here. Once the front's done, I'll flip the whole wiring harness down and hit that back corner once everything's cured. But I will get back to you guys here in just a minute. You guys, so we just finished up the final color code. I just did 3 coats of paint in the Nardo gray, and this color turned out awesome. I am very happy with the outcome of that, especially with that just being out of a rattle can. Came out pretty good. It is super fresh. I literally just finished spraying the last coat when I pulled this up. So I am gonna let this cure. I'm not gonna get to that back corner today. I'm gonna wait for this all to dry and then be able to hit that back corner. I also don't have any clear coat on it yet, but I'm gonna make sure I updated you guys when all of the paint was on. And the next clip you guys are gonna see will probably be here in a couple of days once this has cured well enough that I can flip the wiring harness down, hit that back corner, and then start getting some clear coat on it. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. It is yet another day here in the shop. It has been probably close to a week at this point since the last time I was here and laid down this base coat. Today, I was just able to put on the primer, and I just laid down the 5th and final coat that I'm gonna be doing on this. I did 4 coats that were real light, and then the 5th coat that I did was a little bit heavier, try to get the gloss just a little bit nicer on it. And I think it's turned out pretty good. We won't know completely until it's actually cured and it's dried and we're able to kind of look at it and see how it turned out after everything is fully set and ready to go. But just so you guys know, this video, even though you're watching it at a pretty short time, it's taken me probably about 3 weeks to get done. I don't have a ton of time in here. I do still work a full-time job outside of this, obviously, and I don't get to be here quite as much as I would like to. So it has taken just a little bit, but I am so happy to say we're finally here at the end of it. The only thing left that I'm gonna have to paint is gonna be the radiator support that goes in right here. And I'm kind of debating on, do I just paint the inside? Do I paint the outside of it so the whole thing matches? But you will be able to see the front a little bit from the front of the car through the grill and stuff. So I'm probably gonna tape it off and just do half of it. But if you guys have any thoughts or opinions on that, drop them in the comments below so I can see what you guys think about it. But besides that, this is going to be completely done, and this will finally conclude this video. I thank you guys for following along. I'm gonna give you guys a couple of B-roll shots of the bay just so you can see what everything looks like. I will wait until everything's cured to try to get the best look at it. But thank you guys again for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you do, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next one.